Mr. Ambassador, we are back. Raymundo, because you chose, it was your choice. I will always respect the protocol.
Definitely.
But you choose to speak on our names, on short names, and I appreciate very much that. Let's go to another subject which regards Brazil. You are a country, as I mentioned in my introduction, which grow economically extremely fast. It's a wonder what happened with Brazil. And it's a superpower already because you are on the 9th or 7th place in the world. Depends on to which analysis we compare. And that is already a huge thing because Brazil in the 1970s or 60s was far beyond. And I don't think the Portuguese, when they occupied you the 17th century, they thought that you will become one of the superpowers of the world. How is it possible for you in the last 20 years, because that was the main economic growth, to become such an important economy? What happened? How was that possible?
Well, I think that starting a little bit with the so-called economic cycles of Brazil, as we were discovered, the discovery of Brazil was in 1500.
1500, yes.
And then, let's say 150 years later, they started finding metals, gold and things. So this was the gold cycle. Then we had the rubber cycle up in the north of Brazil, which left also some money there. But these were small things. It was, I think, with the coffee cycle that things started, because there was a lot of money being produced. We were selling, we still are the biggest producer of coffee in the world. And this money was used with the beginning of the industrialization. And I have to have a word here and thank Romania for that. Because there was one economist that was, I don't know if he was living here or in Paris, Mihail Manoilescu.
Oh yes, of course.
He wrote one book about in terms of development, industrialization, and many other books. But this specific was found by Brazilians, and they bought many copies in French and sent to Brazil and took with them to Brazil. And with those ideas from Manoilescu, our industrialization started. Incredible,
Well, this is something amazing, and our citizens, I think they feel proud about it.
Yeah, definitely, So our industrialization, we have a big federation of industries of the state of São Paulo. The beginning of this federation was planted by the ideas of Manoilescu.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we have also the agriculture, which is a strong one. We are leaders in agribusiness too nowadays. So we are a granary of the world, selling huge amounts of soya and other products. And then with the industrialization, we developed also the high technology. So we are the third producers of airplanes in the world, Embraer. I think that Embraer planes would fit and suit Romania, Tarom especially, very well, because it's the perfect airplane for Tarom. And if you look around Romania and many countries of the EU, they use our our planes. This is just to tell you that we developed also in this area, and we are, as I told you, a big producer of airplane, another high technology
important
things.
industry.
Yeah.
You also have the gold, you also have other metals, you have iron, which is also an important, very important resource for you. Other natural resources.
Iron started, the first discoveries were in Minas Gerais, which is a state, a very traditional state, where the gold was found too.
Sure.
And then with that, and with the coffee in Minas Gerais, and in São Paulo, Rio, and then a little bit to the south of São Paulo, there was money enough to start an industrialization.
Well, yes, it was, but if I look to other countries, I see that they're still very much beyond you, and you managed in a very short time to make this huge progress. And you also have a big responsibility, because becoming a stronger power of the world, you are already a big power of the world. You are in the 10 most important economic countries. You have a by far the most important geopolitical and geostrategical position on the southern on the continent of the Southern American continent. You became one of the most important countries in the world, and I want to ask, where do you see Brazil in 10 years from now? Where do you see it from the economic point of view, maybe, or where do you see it from the geopolitical point of view? What is the relation between Brazil and the other big powers? Because you are an emerging superpower, as we call these countries, but in the same time, you also have connections with China, with the United States, with Russia. And I want to know how are these relations going? Which is the strongest? Which is whom do you find as the not the enemy, but let's say the rivals, the biggest rivals? How do you see your country evaluating from here?
To begin with, I just would like to mention to you that we are very much for multilateralism. So we understand that things, all the problems should be solved and can be solved in multilateral negotiations. That's what we are trying, doing our best in the United Nations. That's what we are doing our best in the OAS.
You are a founder of the United Nations.
Yeah, we are founders, we were from the beginning. And we understand that negotiating is the best way. So we have good relations with, my president in July is going to the United States for an official visit in July. And we also keep good relations with the BRICS in the Brazil,
absolutely,
Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. South Africa.
Yes.
The BRICS were a group of also emerging economies that decided to exchange positions, exchange information, and try to coordinate their policies to make the international organizations more adjusted to the interests of those who are emerging.
And what is your relation with the other big countries like China or Russia? Of course, you are part of BRICS, but in the same time, the world is moving. The world is moving from many points of view. We look what happened in the Middle East. Any time can happen conflicts, and you had conflicts in Southern America, in your neighborhood even. And I'm wondering, how do you see your country? I believe that Brazil is the main provider of security in South America. Is clear if we look to the other countries, which are your neighbors. Almost all of the continent is your neighbor. But what I'm trying to say is that Brazil is really playing a role in providing security. But on the other side, which is your partner, the main partner in ensuring security for Brazil?
Well, we have, as I mentioned to you, a policy, a very peaceful policy. We have in our history, diplomatic history, we have one Minister of Foreign Affairs, which is as important as Titulescu is for you. Very outstanding person, and he was minister during 12 years. He was a baron of Rio Branco. Our diplomatic institute is called...
Let's say he was a real baron, not like the Romanian barons.
No.
I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, he was made a baron by the...
He was having a title of being a baron.
Yeah. But then this man, he negotiated with all the neighbors, peaceful borders. So we started our international life by his hands in a very positive way, and that's the basis of our diplomacy. So everywhere we go, everywhere we called to intervene or anything, we always want to negotiate, intervene by negotiation, by agreement. That's the basis of our diplomacy.
So if I understand correctly, you don't have a strategic partnership with a certain country. You are playing now multilateral, and whenever is the case, you intervene to negotiate. So you don't feel that Brazil being in any way in danger for the moment, or as it is happening with Europe. Europe it's now boiling. Middle East is boiling. Africa is boiling. If we look to the conflicts that are emerging in this on these continents. In the same time, you are telling us that it's not the case of the South American continent. But in this case, Mr. Ambassador, still how do you find your relations with China? Because China is one of the important investors recently also in your country, because they invest everywhere.
To tell the truth, China nowadays is our biggest partner.
Yes.
Of course, it has surpassed even the United States.
Even the United States.
Yeah, which is, of course, being such a big power and being in the American continent, the influence has always been big.
Well, China it's a big player now, and the South African ambassador was here, and she also told us that it's a big investor in Africa, big investor in Brazil, big investor everywhere, big investor in Europe. I'm wondering if soon China will not occupy all the countries.
The Prime Minister of China has been in Brazil like 15 days ago. And he went from Brazil to Peru and to Chile. And always with partnerships, big projects, and big things that, of course, will come to reality sometime in the future.
I'm wondering one thing. If China is investing so much in Brazil, do you find in any way in danger that at some point these investments will be used for your dictating your political decisions?
No, I don't think so. No. We have with the BRICS countries, we have coordination meetings, summits, and I don't think China would change. China is investing because they have an enormous surplus.
Oh yes.
Yeah, but they have their own let's say themes to take care of. I don't think it's not in their mind to do this
for the moment. Let's come back to Brazil, and besides the beauty, besides the happiness, the joy of the people, the Brazilians, we also have bad aspects, and I would like to address Raymundo also to you, because it's correct also see these aspects. You have the biggest rate of killings because of shooting the firearms are, I'm putting brackets here, are very popular. You have, according to the analysis made by UN, you have the same or even higher rate of dying people than in a country with an open conflict. So why is this happening, and how can this be counteracted?
Yeah, well, being very, very frank with you and with our those who are watching the program, it has two aspects. One is drug trafficking.
Yes.
Drug traffickers are in South America. We know they have sometimes more money than the authorities themselves. They really get into the poor side of the population. Every once in a while, there are, as it happened a few times already, the army goes up and arrests these guys, but then it's a kind of a clash, a real clash. It happened recently, more than once in Rio, and then they disappear, but then they come back again. And it's a disaster. These people are really evil people. This is one thing. The other thing.
Are they, sorry, before going to the second one, are they Brazilians, or they are coming from the neighborhood, from the other countries which aren't your neighbors?
They are Brazilians with connections elsewhere.
Yes.
So, and some of them are not Brazilian, but most of them are. And they are very, 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 very powerful, these guys. And the other thing is there is poverty in Brazil still.
Yes.
During the last 15 years, the programs of the government managed to take 40 million people from poverty into the low middle class. But then you still have poor people. And,
absolutely.
And these,
you are 200 million people.
200, and 3 million, yeah. So it's a scenario is good for them. But what does the government do? The government invests in arms for the police,
yes,
and for the military, invests in programs to avoid these things to happen, and does whatever is possible to protect the borders.
Yes.
As you said, we have a big border here and another big one here.
Absolutely.
So that's it. It's money to invest and to fight these drug traffickers.
It's a pity what we hear, because it's the same thing happening in Mexico.
Yes.
Mexico, we had the Mexican ambassador invited, and he described the same situation, where very powerful people with money coming from selling drugs, having a large authority,
right.
Not necessarily over the government, but having money, it's a big advantage for these criminals, for these evil people, as you mentioned, as you call them.
Yeah.
And also we should tell the people that, the Armenian people, that you are in a neighborhood which is not pleasant at all. And I'm not criticizing those countries, but Venezuela, Colombia, Bolivia, Peru are well known. Even Guyana are well known for producing drugs. And Venezuela, we don't talk about it because it's a proven case. Colombia, the same. So you are neighbors of these countries, which if we compare them to Brazil, they don't have the economic development, they don't have the security development, they don't have any of the aspects that you have. So it's a matter of, it's very complicated for you to maintain such a big territory, a huge territory, half of a continent, safe.
It is.
So that's why I'm trying to see if I understood correctly your explanation. poor people lives everywhere, even in the United States, the richest country in the world, isn't it? And are the poor people living there, and people are shooting each other, or drugs traffickers are living.
But and having a big population, you have big numbers, of course. 200 million people. 200
million people, yes, indeed. What I was amazed to read was the fact that the median age in Brazil is 31. This is a very young, dynamic, powerful country.
Yes.
Because if this is the medium age in a country, and you have the will, the political will, and you have the economic advantage, and you do, because you have this evolution, nothing can stop you, because a young country, or at least from the age perspective, it's a powerful country.
Yes.
In Romania, it's not the case. The birth and the age, the median age is not at all 40 years old.
In Europe in general, the population is growing older.
Yes. In Brazil,
as we were discussing, there was a moment in which a big amount of people came to the how do you say, the low middle class. With education, the growth of the population is it's not decreasing, but it's stabilizing. And also, as the health situation gets better, this average age of 31 will little by little grow up a little bit, but not very much. We are still a young country.
Yes, I mean, from the age perspective, is for sure. And is this an advantage? Do you feel it is an advantage?
I think it is, sure. Of course, it has to come with bigger, better education, because education is the center of the problem.
And how do you see the relations between European Union or Europe in general and Brazil now? Because you are a colony of the Portuguese Empire, if you can call it like that, of Portugal, which occupied you in the 1500, and then you stayed up to 19th century occupied, and then you declared your independence. But how are the relations now? Do you feel that Europe is looking to the South American continent with interest, or is more less focused on the territories that they were occupying, and they're more focused on their European affairs?
No, in fact, well, of course, Europe has its own questions here. Absolutely. And they have to deal with that. But economy, world economy is made in blocks nowadays.
Exactly.
And Europe is a very strong bloc. We have been negotiating, we have a group of countries called Mercosur, which is Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, now Venezuela has just joined, and Bolivia should be joining in the near future. But we have been for many years negotiating with the EU commercial agreement between Mercosur and the EU. There is interest. There is a big, of course, in South America we are 500 million people, so that's
in Europe,
that's also a good market.
Europe, it's consuming.
But anyway,
especially coffee.
Sure. But anyway, the negotiations are going. Okay. We have a very strong influence from European companies. We have the biggest industrial city of Germany is São Paulo in Brazil, for example. So there is big interest between the two regions, and moreover, we are in part descendants of Europeans. I was telling you in the beginning.
Yes, 50% from your population it's European, and the rest it's mixed. Mr. Ambassador, we will take a short break of commercials again, and we will be back with other interesting subjects.
All right, okay.
Publicitate.